Welcome, Sojourners. I am Jonathan with Sojourners Awake, and I have been playing tabletop role-playing games since 2017. All my life, I have always loved storytelling. When I was a kid, I remember listening to the audio tapes of The Hobbit, reading through Lord of the Rings, The Book of Three, and watching movies like Legend, Willow, and The Never-Ending Story. Oftentimes, I would gather my brothers and sister in the backyard and create an imagination game for them, filled with swords and magic and, of course, dragons. We were the heroes saving the world from an evil threat, but I usually had to modify my story somehow because one of my siblings had another idea they wanted to incorporate into the play. And so I'd merge the two games into one so that we could all get along. And later on in life, I learned how to play music and discovered the power of telling a story through playing the piano. I would pluck out a melody and chords to express the emotions we all have that can be difficult to express using only words. In short, I listened to my heart to tell me what the notes had to say. In my adult life, I became a hospice nurse. What this entailed was going into a person's home and sitting with them, listening to their needs, managing their care at the end of life. This meant that once again, I listened to their voice to direct their care. In 2017, I had a career crisis, and I sat at home for 3 months while homeschooling my kids. While homeschooling, we found a card and dice game called Dragonwood by Gamewright. We had a blast playing it. But besides the game, I soon expounded upon the single card played or the single dice rolled, embellishing a story to entertain my children. Eventually, after that, I found 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. And of course, I remember immediately sitting in the Dungeon Master chair. And what I loved the most about that, and still love to this day, is listening to the players around my table and telling our story. You can see this is a common art form throughout my life. Whether through playing in the backyard, music, or being a hospice nurse, I have been keen on listening and sharing the story together, making sense of this wonderful existence that we call a life. I love being a dungeon master because I enjoy setting the tables for the players to experience. I believe that all of us are some kind of artist in a way, and with RPGs, the art form is using words. We share these words together, and like friends making a patchwork quilt, we each bring a piece of the story and match it together to the whole story. So it's not just my story, and it's not history, it's our story. I set the table for my players because I believe when the setting is interesting and the threat is compelling, the story will awaken within each player, and we will enjoy our days together. I chose the name Sojourner because I wanted to remind us all that we are travelers underneath the sun. From one point of life to the next, we are traveling through, and life was meant to be lived together. The word sojourn means under the day. To sojourn with someone means to spend a day together. Isn't that not fitting for our time playing RPGs? The stories we tell are timeless and speak to the eternity in our hearts. So come sojourn with me today, and as always, may your story continue.